It started with a small, almost unnoticeable leak, right above my bed. A single drop of water every few seconds. Nothing serious, or so I thought. I'd just moved into a small one-bedroom apartment on the edge of the city. It was cheap. Too cheap, probably. But I needed quiet. I was coming off a breakup, job change, and, if I'm being honest, on a borderline breakdown, so I didn't mind the rain. At first, it helped me sleep. Drip. 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 That leak, though? It started on the third night of constant rainfall, right above my bed. No visible stain. No bubbling paint. Just the faint sound of a drop hitting the hardwood. I couldn't see anything, even with a flashlight, but I heard it. Always at night. Never during the day. I texted the landlord. He replied, "Storm's been bad. Could just be pipe pressure. Let me know if it gets worse." On the fifth night, it did get worse. The dripping sped up. I moved the bed to the corner, laid towels down. Still, the sound burrowed into my skull. Drip, drip, drip. Except it wasn't just dripping anymore, it was breathing. I know how that sounds. But lying there in the dark, staring at that patch of ceiling, I could hear faint inhalations between each drop, like something was exhaling through the cracks. I started sleeping on the couch, but the sound followed. Now I heard scratching. Faint, high like tiny nails behind the plaster. And when I turned the lights on, silence. But the next morning, a dark streak had formed on the ceiling, long and thin. Almost deliberate, like it had been drawn. I set up my phone to record overnight. When I played it back the next morning, my stomach turned. The video was mostly static. But at 3:08 a.m., the audio picked up something, a gurgling noise. Then a wet thump. Then clear as day and a voice, "Don't move the bed." We liked watching. Rain slams against window suddenly. Packed my things. Was about to leave when the ceiling above the bed caved in. But there wasn't water. It was black, thick, oily, with a smell I can still taste, like rotten bleach and something sweet all at once, and inside the ruined ceiling cavity, I saw fingers, not human, too long, slick. They twitched. Just once, then vanished into the darkness. I backed out of the room, slipped on the floor, and fled. The landlord never believed me. I showed him the video. He claimed I doctored it. I showed him the black stains when he painted over them. That building is still standing. Someone else lives in Unit 302 now, but I walk by sometimes when it rains. And I swear I hear the sound of dripping through the brick. Drip. Drip. Breathing. She moved into the room next to mine during second semester. Quiet, pale, dark hair always in a braid. Her name was Mara. She kept to herself. Didn't party. Didn't socialize. But when it rained, I'd hear her. Talking, not on the phone, not in a Zoom call, just talking. Our rooms shared a wall. And every time a storm rolled in, I'd hear her soft voice rising through the drywall. Whispers. Then pauses. Then murmurs again, like a conversation. One night during a heavy downpour, I knocked on her door. "Everything okay?" She opened it halfway. No music. No phone in her hand. "Do you hear them too?" she asked. "Who?" "The rain. It knows things." She closed the door. Beat thunder rolls. Over the next few weeks, she started watching me, not in a creepy way, just watching in the hallway, at the dining hall, in class. Her eyes would lock onto mine like she was trying to decode something in my face. I tried to avoid her. But one night, I came back to find a folded paper slipped under my door. It was a drawing. Of me. Sitting at my desk, typing, except I hadn't been home when it was drawn. I checked the timestamp on my laptop. That same moment, I was across campus. The next day, I confronted her. "Mara, what is this?" She looked at me calmly. "You shouldn't lie about where you go." I didn't lie. She tilted her head. The rain told me. It escalated from there. She began leaving notes on my door. Dozens of them, each one describing something I'd done in private. What I ate. What I searched online. What I said under my breath. I tried to report it to housing. They said she had a spotless record. They spoke to her. She stopped leaving notes. But she didn't stop watching. Then one night, the whispers came from my wall again, but this time, they weren't hers, they were mine, my voice, saying things I never said out. Loud, "I hate her. She creeps me out. Wish she'd disappear. I froze. Put my ear to the wall. He's listening now. A new voice said, deeper, wet sounding. He's finally ready. Thunder crashes. I banged on her door. What the hell is this? No answer. I forced the knob. The door creaked open. Room empty. Lights off. But the window was wide open. Rain pouring in, and on her desk, a small notebook. Inside, pages and pages of notes. About me, but the handwriting was mine, not similar, not copied, identical, every curve, every mistake, even the way I dotted my I's. And on the last page, he will belong to the rain soon. I moved out that night, transferred dorms, switched majors, blocked every trace of her online, but sometimes, when it rains, I'll get an email from a burner address, subject line always the same. You're not alone in your head anymore, no message, just an audio file. When I play it, it's the sound of me typing and whispering, things I haven't said yet. Light static, fade to rain. Distant thunder rolling over hills. It was supposed to be a straight drive. 3.5 hours upstate for a weekend cabin trip with my girlfriend Maya. I'd driven the route twice before, same gas stations, same exit signs. Easy. But that night, the storm hit earlier than expected. And somehow one wrong turn changed everything. We missed the second interchange and ended up on Route 41. I swear I'd never seen it before. No streetlights, no other cars. Just cracked pavement, trees on both sides, and the kind of rain that turns everything gray. Let's just turn around, Maya said. I agreed. Pulled a wide U-turn. But 5 minutes later, we passed the same street sign again. Welcome to Droslin. Neither of us had seen it on the map. We pulled over at a gas station, the only lit structure for miles. Neon sign buzzing, old pumps. Inside, a lone attendant stared at us. Which way's the highway? I asked. He didn't answer right away, just looked outside. Then said, You're still here, huh? Still? He handed me a paper map, hand-drawn, with one road marked in red. Don't take any turns, just follow the rain. Radio fuzzes briefly. Back in the car, Maya asked, Did he seem off to you? I nodded, but I didn't want to admit I was already scared. We drove. No music, just the sound of rain and the occasional crackle from the old FM radio. Then we saw a person on the side of the road, waving. We slowed down. It was a kid, maybe 9, soaked to the bone, barefoot, pointing behind us. You're going the wrong way. What? I asked. He looked at me dead in the eyes and whispered, It follows if you turn, then ran into the woods. We kept going. 20 minutes later, we passed the gas station again. Same spot, same flickering sign. I slammed the brakes. What the hell is going on? Maya was crying now. She showed me her phone. The screen displayed one line of text, Don't turn. No app, no message app, just text. Then her phone powered off. We drove in silence. No turns, no exits, just that same road. And soon, the town appeared again. But now it looked different. The gas station was on fire. No one inside, ash falling like snow. Maya screamed, Keep driving! The road narrowed. Buildings leaned toward us. Rain no longer felt wet. It felt thick, like it was watching us. Then, the road split. Left or right. No signs. No lights. I didn't turn. I drove straight through the grass. Trees whipped past us, then silence. Clear skies. And a green sign. Highway 18, 2 miles. We didn't talk until we reached the cabin. No signal, no map logs, but Maya's phone had returned to normal, except there was one photo in her camera roll we hadn't taken. A blurry image of us, sitting in the car, both of us asleep. But someone was in the driver's seat. A third person, smiling, with eyes that looked exactly like mine. I wasn't supposed to stay overnight, it was just a minor surgery, in and out. But complications with the anesthesia meant I had to be observed until morning. The nurse said it'd be quiet, just you and the rain. She was right, it was too quiet. They wheeled me into a private recovery room around 10 p.m. The lights were dimmed. I was groggy but aware. The storm outside made the whole building feel underwater, every sound muffled and heavy. I drifted in and out of sleep, until I woke up. To someone holding my hand. It was gentle, warm, fingers laced between mine. A comforting grip. I assumed it was a nurse, but when I opened my eyes, no one. The chair next to my bed was empty. I buzzed for assistance. Did someone come in earlier? I asked. The night nurse checked the log. No visitors. No staff assigned to your room for the last hour. Then who was? She smiled politely. Probably a dream. The meds can do that. But it happened again. Around 2:40 a.m., same feeling. Hand wrapping around mine while I was half asleep. Except this time, I heard breathing, shallow, uneven, coming from just beside the bed. When I turned to look, nothing except the heart monitor, now beating just a little faster. The next morning I asked for a new room. The nurse hesitated. You're in room 413, right? Yeah. We usually don't put people in there. Why? She leaned in. Patient died in that bed 2 weeks ago. Elderly woman. Refused to be moved during the storm. Kept saying she didn't want to die alone. I stared at her. Why would you put me there then? She shrugged. Only room available. Just for the night, they moved me that afternoon. Different floor. Different wing. I slept better that night. No hand. No whispers. But when I woke up, there was a note on my tray table. No handwriting. Just printed text, thank you for staying. I wasn't alone this time. Light monitor beep continues under thunder. I asked the nurses. They denied leaving it. Security checked the cameras. At 2:41 a.m., glitch, one frame missing from the hallway feed, then a faint shape crossing the screen. Someone in a hospital gown, holding flowers. And on the chair beside my old bed in room 413, an indent, like someone had been sitting there all night. It's been weeks. But now, every time I try to fall asleep, I feel a hand reach for mine in the dark. Not to scare me, just to make sure they're not alone.
I barely knew my Uncle A was my mom's older brother. They didn't talk much. He lived in the mountains, middle of nowhere, completely off-grid. When he passed, we found out he'd left his house to me. No explanation, just a handwritten clause in his will. He'll understand once it rains. That line alone should have been enough to stay away. But I didn't. The place was 4 hours up into the hills. One cracked road led to a rusted metal gate with a hand-carved wooden sign. Do not stay past nightfall. I assumed it was a joke, something old and superstitious. But when I drove into town to grab supplies, I mentioned the property to the cashier. Dashi froze. The house on Lorne Hill, I nodded. She lowered her voice. Don't sleep there, whatever you do. Why not? That house talks when it rains. Beat on the soft thunder, I got to the house just as the storm began. It looked like no one had touched it in years. Shutters askew. Moss on the chimney. A single light still working in the hallway. Inside was worse, dust thick enough to write in, animal droppings. And yet, the air smelled fresh, like someone had just opened all the windows. I lit a few candles, got to work cleaning. And at 9:13 p.m., I heard the first voice. It was faint, just outside the kitchen window, whisper carried by the rain. He's here now. I froze, turned off the music. The rain got louder. Then another voice. Does he know what's beneath? I slammed the window shut. But the voices didn't stop. They moved to the walls. And the floorboards. They weren't loud. Who's Constant? I called my mom. She didn't pick up, so I called the local sheriff's office. Yeah, that property's been quiet for years, the deputy said. I think someone's on it now. Not possible. I'm the only one on patrol out here, and I'd know. I'm hearing voices. He sighed. You should leave. Why? That house, it gets in your head. At midnight, the power died. Candles flickered, and something knocked on the inside of the walls, like fingers tapping from the other side of the drywall. Knock, knock, I grabbed my bag and made for the door. It wouldn't open. Not jammed, just look from the outside, and I never locked it. Then, behind me, the floor creaked heavy. Deliberate I turned around and saw muddy footprints, appearing one by one, from the kitchen to the stairs upward. I spent the night in my car, in the rain, gripping a crowbar. By morning, the house was silent, the front door wide open. And the footprints? Gone. But on the living room wall, someone had scratched a message into the plaster. You listened. Good. I sold the house 2 weeks later, as dashes. No explanations. But sometimes, on rainy nights, I dream I'm still inside, unable to leave. And the last thing I hear is my uncle's voice whispering through the rain. You shouldn't have come alone. It was a long drive home, the kind where your brain zones out and the highway blurs. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the rain had gotten heavier. Thunder rolled across the neighborhood like distant growling. Everything looked normal. Porch light on, curtains drawn. My house. I sat in the car for a few minutes, waiting for the rain to ease up. That's when the front door opened. At first, I thought it was my wife, but the figure didn't step out. They stood in the entryway, just watching. Then, they stepped outside, into terrain, and my stomach dropped, because I recognized the way they moved, the way they scratched the back of their neck. It was me. Same hoodie, shame, jeans, same limp from that sprained ankle. They didn't look toward the car. They just walked across the yard and went around the back of the house. I blinked hard, wiped the windshield. Gone. I called my wife. Is everything okay in there? She sounded groggy. Yeah. Why? You didn't see anything weird just now. What do you mean? Nothing. I hung up. Daya eventually went inside. Everything was fine, except the back door was unlocked, and muddy footprints led to the basement door. I never opened it. Not that night. The next morning, I checked the security camera footage. At 11:42 p.m., a figure walked up my driveway, posed in front of my car, but the camera glitched for 10 seconds. When it resumed, my car door was open, and I was gone. Except I wasn't. I'd never left the car. I became paranoid. Started locking every door, covering mirrors, recording audio in my sleep, and the dreams. They were worse in each one. I'd watch myself go about my day. Only it wasn't me. It was a version just slightly off. Wrong posture, wrong smile, and in the dreams, he'd always turn to the camera and say the same thing. You're not supposed to still be here. One night, during another storm, I woke up to static on the TV. And footsteps. Upstairs. I live in a 1-story house. I grabbed a bat, tiptoed toward the kitchen, and saw someone standing by the sink, back turned, wearing my hoodie. I didn't move, but they did. Slowly. Turned around, smiled. I needed the rain, they whispered. Now, I'm staying. Beat, thunder booms. I blacked out when Primera came into. I was outside. Soaked, sitting in the driver's seat of my car. Engine off, phone dead. And when I looked at the house, it was quiet, but the porch light was still on, and someone was watching from the window. Not my wife, not my kid, just me. I don't go home anymore. But he does. He lives my life. Says the right things. Wears my clothes. Posts on my socials. But sometimes, during the rain, I hear whispers coming from my phone speaker. Not words. Just the sound of breathing. I know he's still watching, waiting for me to forget who I was, that so he can take it fully.